Welcome back, football enthusiasts, to another episode of Money Talks. Today, we're diving into the intriguing world of football finances. We'll be exploring financial fair play, the influence of money in sport, and the unique 50+1 rule in German football. So, let's kick things off with a closer look at the financial fair play, often referred to as FFP. FFP, established by UEFA, aims to maintain a financial stability and fairness in European club football. We'll mainly just be talking about European. We don't really care about the South Americans or North Americans, Oceania or Asia, because they kind of suck at football, unless it's international. But how does it work? So, clubs are required to balance their football-related income with their expenses over a specified period, usually 3 years. But that's not all. There are regular financial assessments, and clubs must provide detailed financial data to. This is very similar to what regular businesses go through on like a yearly basis, where they have to, return like their tax returns and stuff like that. It's kind of cringe, but we have to do it. Everyone has to do it. But this is more serious because they're bigger clubs. Now, what are the consequences for non-compliance? They're very severe and dire consequences, such as massive fines up to millions and millions of dollars, transfer bans, squad size restrictions, and even disqualification from UEFA competitions. It's really not a good thing. And there are a few teams that have failed to comply, which I'll talk about in a sec. Actually, I'll just say it now. It's Manchester City and Juventus. They had some pretty big issues going on, and they had some bans, and they even had point deductions. Now let's tackle the elephant on the pitch, some could say. The issues of clubs spending exorbitant amounts of money on players, causing a sort of ripple effect, like a butterfly effect throughout football. And that main issue is, a club pays, say, $60 million for a player that's decent. He's not that great, but he's okay and he'll do the job. Now, that's not a good idea, because then clubs will be thinking, oh, this massive club is buying my player for 60 mil, even though my player is not really that good. What if we just make the rest of our players $60 million and, rake in the big bucks? And if we have like a player that someone wants, they'll have to spend that amount of money. And then in return, if a club needs a player because maybe someone's injured, they need to fill that spot, they're gonna have to pay it. And then they just keep on rising the sale. And that isn't good, because then eventually players get too expensive. It's outrageous. Recently, the fifth most expensive player has been bought for 140 million AUD, which is nuts because he sucks. Is Moise Caicedo. He went from Brighton to Chelsea, and I think he's Venezuelan or something, some like South American country. He went from Brighton, and he's a class player. He's okay. He's decent. But for Chelsea, he has not been worth 140 million. Players that have been worth 140 million plus, players like Neymar and Mbappe, and that's about it, actually. But, it's like a double-edged sword. Pros like attracting top talent and boosting the economy, but cons like financial disparities and fan alienation. This relentless spending has led to a vicious cycle where clubs pay inflated prices for players, contributing to the overall inflation of football. As a conclusion, that's how I would phrase it. And it's sad, because my favorite team, Manchester United, spent 100 million euros on a player called Anthony. He's a Brazilian wonder from Ajax, and he moved, and we all thought this is the guy. This is the man that'll bring us success and the goals. But he's a laughing stock. He's called a fidget spinner because he does his little signature move, quote unquote, where he receives the ball and he spins around like 2 or 3 times. And he sucks. He is absolutely dreadful. He can't finish. He can't make up his mind. He makes horrible decisions, and we all want him out of the club. So, speaking of financial issues, we also have to address Manchester City and their controversy surrounding their financial fair play allegations. Now, what was up with that is in February, I think this year, the Premier League accused Man City of breaching more than 100 financial rules, which includes failing to provide accurate financial information, failing to comply with the UEFA's financial fair play regulations, and failing to follow Premier League rules on profit and sustainability. Now, Manchester City are one of the most successful clubs at the moment, but what happened was a couple of years ago they were bought by some Arabs and they got billions and billions of dollars and they're super rich now and they just spent and spent and spent and they spent like $1 billion plus over the past few years. And was any of it legal? Probably not. But they've still managed to pay their way out of any sort of like punishment. Whereas Juventus on the other side did similar things where they kind of faked their finance information, but they lost about 10, 15 points in the league, which meant they missed out on European football the next season, and which it's detrimental to the club's success because they make a lot of money from European football and they're a big club. Man City, they were going to get banned from Champions League for 2 years, but they just I'm guessing they kind of paid their way out of it. I'm allegedly. These allegations have shown a spotlight on the challenges of enforcing financial fair play regulations and maintaining financial transparency in football, which in turn means it has to be harsher rules and regulations, which is annoying because you have some clubs that are doing the right thing and then, others just ruin it for the rest of us. And another issue I'd like to point out is the smaller clubs don't get enough money, which means they can't succeed. You get like the occasional wonder season by a club like Leicester City in 2016 when they beat the 1 to 5,000 odds of winning the Premier League, and they did. They won the Premier League, which is nuts, and they had like a okay team full of wonder kids, to be fair, but it was unexpected. And you have a few like teams like Newcastle and Brighton and maybe West Ham as well, that are doing really well this season despite not having the most expensive teams, but just teams that are doing really good. And to be fair, a lot of it depends on the manager, but it's still a thing of, if they had the money, they could possibly be doing even better, but they don't get it because they're not supported enough. Shifting our focus onto German football, which is, in my opinion, one of my favorite, or one of the best. I guess having a favorite isn't really opinion, but it's a unique ownership structure, and ownership is a big issue with Man United as well. So, like the Glazers, everyone wants them out, but they're not selling the club. But this is the ownership structure. It's the 50+1 rule. In Germany, at least 50% of voting rights plus one additional vote must remain with the club's members, preventing outside investors from seizing control. Clubs often operate on a membership model, granting fans a say in decisions. And this is good because, the German football is for the fans, and that's what it should be. Football is for the fans, is not just all about money. And you have the Premier League who sell tickets for way too expensive. Not as bad as the MLS in America. They're selling their tickets now that Lionel Messi moved into Miami. They're selling it for outrageously high prices just because they know, oh, Lionel Messi's playing. We want people to watch it, and they know people will spend that money. But it's not fair on people who used to be able to afford the tickets but now can't, just because one star player has moved over to their team. So it's a bit of a dog move. Well, there are exceptions, and I'm not gonna delve deep into it. There's not enough time, but yeah, that's a wrap of our exploration of the financial landscape of football, covering FFP, the complexities of excessive spending in sport, and the 50+1 rule in German football. Remember, football's financial world is ever evolving, so stay informed. Read the news, go on goal.com, YouTube, anything like that. Keep the passion alive and continue to celebrate the beautiful game we call football. Thanks for joining us today on Money Talks. Until next time, keep your boots laced and your hearts racing. Outro music.